Welcome back to Sustainable Today, Successful Tomorrow, where we explore real world sustainable tourism stories that actually work. In our last episode, we shared a few highlights from my conversation with Paul, head of partnerships at Byway Travel, a UK based travel business that offers train travel in Europe. Today, we're excited to bring you the full interview. Paul and I talked about how Byway navigates developing and selling train travel, and if their travelers are more interested in the experience or the sustainability aspect of it. It was a very interesting conversation, and I hope you learned as much from it as we did. I hope you enjoy. Trains are back in vogue, but not everyone has jumped on board just yet. So how do you make train travel an exciting and practical choice for travelers? We spoke with Paul from Byway to explore how to make slow travel sell. Byway is a travel business from the UK with a mission to make flight-free travel the mainstream. They offer personalized train, boat, and bus travel trips in the UK and Europe away from the crowds. So, Paul, thank you so much for being here. And to start off, I'm just wondering if Byway is mainly focused on offering an amazing and fun travel experience by train, or is the main motivation the sustainability aspect of train travel?
Well, thank you very much for having me. Really nice to meet you. Really interesting question. When we started the business, which was only like 5 years ago, we thought that everybody who would want to buy from us would be interested in the sustainability aspect of their trip. And it's certainly part of it. We do have conversations with customers where they talk about sustainability, but much more common is people being in love with trains, people being in love with traveling slowly. People may be falling out of love with the experience of flying rather than the sustainability impact of flying. I think there's a real thing. In your introduction, you mentioned that there's a kind of renaissance of train travel. And I think that's really true. I think there's a real market of people who are really interested in the connectedness that you get when you travel by train. When you travel through a
Yeah.
place, you experience that place. When you fly over a place, I think you miss quite a lot of, and you could be flying anywhere, right?
Yeah.
The clouds that you fly over that look the same wherever you're flying to. Whereas when you're traveling through a place, I think there's a real connectedness that people get by traveling that way.
And really seeing the train as a journey and part of the experience rather than
Ex-
just the transportation.
exactly that. Yes, that's a really good way to put it. In our marketing, we talk a lot about our products as being journey based. So it's not just about the
Yeah.
destination; it's about how you get there and how you enjoy getting there and what you see
Yeah.
along the way.
Yeah.
Is interesting thing about demographic as well about the conversation about sustainability. So when we started business, we thought that everyone was going to be like 25 and wanting to travel this way because they're really into sustainability and they're like an activist.
Yeah.
But it's not the
Yeah.
case. They're much
Oh,
older.
good.
Our audience is much older. So it's people returning to train travel. And it might be people who are a bit fed up with flying. I think that's
Yeah.
what's happening.
Yeah. So what is the age group averagely for your
Over
target?
over 55 is the
Over 55.
bulk of our market.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes much older. Like I've seen customers saying, I'm 83, am I okay to travel with you? And we're like, yes, brilliant, wonderful.
And what do you think has been the most popular trip so far? Like what's very popular?
Well, so almost never do we sell the same trip twice because
Oh,
allows
really?
our technology allows bespoke trips to be created both online and through our team. But there are certain routes that are really popular. And there's one, if you go from Switzerland down through the Alps to northern Italy, to Lake Como, there's a railway network called the Rhaetian Railway, which is like a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And the train, and by the way, you can get like tourist trains that go through it with like the glass roofs, so you've got amazing views.
Roofs. Yeah.
But there are also perfectly ordinary passenger trains that travel on the same routes. And we use those more often than the expensive tourist trains because the view's the same, right? There's just,
It,
you just look out a window. The journey is amazing because it winds its way through the Alps. And that sometimes you're up really high in the snow and other times you're really low and it's lakes and forests. And it has to be very slow because it really is winding very slowly through the Alps. And it takes all day. It takes all day to go from Switzerland to northern Italy. And
yeah.
jaw-droppingly amazing, and we love it. And we have so many customers who know it and have done it once and want to do it again or want to experience it for the first time. And of course, when you
Yeah.
finish, you end up somewhere like Lake Como, which is amazing to visit on its own.
Also very great. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a really good of what you're saying about the journey being just as important as the destination.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I also remember being especially in the train when it's just like it's a short commute, for example, to the next city, but just sitting there having a coffee, looking outside is just yeah, it's a great feeling. Yeah, I
Agreed.
definitely see the appeal of trains.
How well are you actually communicating sustainability? We see many travel businesses and destinations working hard, yet they still struggle to talk about it.
And maybe you feel the same. You're afraid of being seen as greenwashing, unsure what to share, or just not really connecting with your travelers. We've been there with a lot of travel brands, and we get how frustrating it is. So, with years of experience in sustainable tourism and marketing, we've created something simple to get you started.
It's called a sustainable marketing scan. You just answer a few quick questions, we'll take a look, and if it's a good fit, we'll invite you for a short call to go through your opportunities.
You can start today at goodtourisminstitute.com/scan and turn uncertainty into a clear, compelling story.
And I also know that, for example, night trains are growing in popularity. Do you see this reflected in your bookings? Like that night
Yeah.
train is, yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a really interesting one. It's not always positive. Honestly, it's not always positive. So they're really pop. We have many customers who inquire with us, say, I really want to experience a night train. In most cases, it's not a luxury product and you don't have any views. It's really a means to an end. It's how to
Yeah.
go to bed in one city and wake up in another. And it's very
Yeah.
convenient and it's brilliant. And we love them and we want more. But it's important customers realize it's not a luxury product. The cabins can be quite small. They can be quite noisy. Like when I've spoken to customers who've been on a sleeper train, my first question is, did you sleep? And many say, really, but
Not
it's okay.
really.
Some people do, right? Some people
Yes.
really sleep well with that kind of experience. I
Yeah.
know what I'm like. I wouldn't sleep. I wouldn't sleep at all. So,
No, me neither.
but you're right. The network across Europe is really increasing. They're quite hard to operate. And for many companies that are looking to develop their night train operation, one of the big problems is rolling stock. There's not much night train rolling stock available. It's quite an expensive and difficult thing to do.
Yes, and it's also they're sold out quite early, right? Sometimes you have to book like very
Correct.
far in advance.
There's not that many cabins on a night train.
What I wanted to ask was, do your travelers like book far in advance or is it more like a last minute
So,
trip? Yeah.
Both is true, and it really depends on the season. So we're a holiday company, the same as a traditional holiday company.
Yeah.
Our big peak booking period is the same as I think most of the industry, January, February, March. People,
Yeah.
real volume in what we call Q1. Good
Yeah.
travel, May, June, July, August, and September. So that's
Right.
like the traditional model, and we very much fit into that with our audience.
Yeah.
What's really interesting with ours is we sell more in May and June and September travel than July, August, because our customers are a little bit older. They don't need to travel necessarily during school
In
holidays.
high yeah.
So
Yeah, that's a perk.
it's really interesting. So September actually is our biggest travel month. We
Yeah.
do have, and we like even this morning we've been making bookings to travel in August. So we do get people traveling and booking late, but it's not the majority for us. And
Yeah.
and honestly, Anne, it sparks another thought around this kind of travel, and we'll probably come on to this later, but it can be quite difficult to organize stuff way in advance because not all schedules and tickets are released early. There's a thing in travel,
Yeah.
in rail travel booking horizon. And not like I can't book, for example, a sleeper train for this time next year. It's not available to book
No.
yet. So that's
Yeah.
whereas of course,
That's tricky.
right, if you wanted to buy a flight for this time next year, no problem, right? We'd
You
be able to
can,
do that.
yeah.
You'd be able to do that online without speaking to anybody. But try and book a train for this time next year, actually quite tricky.
Yeah. For example, we're going to South Korea for a workshop in October.
Amazing.
And I'm planning to take a train from Busan to Seoul. But we have to travel by train end of October. And I still can't book. Like I think I can only book like 1 month in advance.
Right.
And the same we had with the night train from Helsinki to Rovaniemi is that, you have to wait quite long
Yeah.
before, right before you can book the trip. Do you think that this is an issue for them sometimes? Like they really want the security of having everything
Well,
locked in?
this is something we've had to overcome. So your question is
Yeah.
really good because absolutely they need that security. They want that security. I think anybody would. For booking something for next year, you want to know it's booked done.
Yeah.
And we as a tour operator have that responsibility. And that's what we take on by being the tour operator. So what we've done is we've built some technology that basically queues up a request to book so that as soon as they become available through the technology, our system automatically books the tickets the day that they become available.
Right.
So we can be very confident that in some change in schedule, which may happen,
Yeah.
we will get the customer's complete itinerary booked way in advance. So we say to our customers, when you book with us, it's done.
I think that's also what's needed. Like that's also the offer that you-
Exactly. And we're providing a service that customers need.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is why Byway was created in the first place. Book all of this kind of stuff as a customer on your own. It's actually really difficult. Like
Yeah, I know.
it's a really fragmented industry. If you wanted to buy a flight to South Korea, you could do that online yourself, no problem. And if you wanted to attach a hotel to it, very easy.
You do it. Yeah.
You can do it, right? Try and book trains from the UK to Czech Republic, for example. Right? That's hard.
Yeah.
You'll need to be on 3 or 4 different websites to book all the different train legs. You'd need to work out where you'll need to stay overnight. If there's a night train involved, how do you do that bit? And if you're booking far in advance, not everything's definitely available yet.
Yeah.
So this is why Byway was created, to actually say to customers, let us do that for you. We can put that together for you, and we can do it in a bespoke, unique way.
Exactly. Yeah. Also, for example, my dad loves hiking and he goes like for a month, but he always takes the train. So I remember like when he was telling he was going to north of Italy and then he had to go like for a national park. And I think he booked like 6 or 7 different trains, like to actually get there. And then you have to like take into account all the scenarios, like what if that train is a bit late or if that one falls out. It's quite a lot of work and he likes it. So sure.
Fine.
But I can imagine that a lot of people do not want to put that much time and effort into that.
That point about disruption is a good one. And listen, trains, like everything else, gets disrupted from time to time. Travel does, right? And the thing about travel is something will get disrupted somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
Flight will be delayed, or the motorway will be packed, or whatever.
Yeah.
Trains the same. Again, one of the reasons that people book with Byway is that we include what we call disruption replanning. If there is some disruption that's going to affect, like in your dad's example, where he wants to make sure that he's going to meet his connection, if your first train is delayed and you're going to miss your connection, it's on Byway to reorganize your trip so that you get to where you need to be.
Okay.
And we do that as part of our service.
All right. Oh, that's really good. I was going to ask that because also like the trains in Germany, for example, going to ITB Berlin, I think half of the time there's always an issue.
Interesting, isn't it? Germany, where you would think their train system would be very efficient, is actually not very good. I think Deutsche Bahn over the years have had some real problems.
Yeah.
And I've been to ITB on the train before and I didn't love that, if I'm honest.
And so you have like this guarantee or you rebook the train. Do you do that? Like, do you keep track of the trains automatically or do you wait for them to tell, hey, my train is delayed, what to do?
So we've got really good information that comes through to us in advance. Not always, right? Because some things happen right there and then. But generally, if we get notification of disruption, we can get ahead of it. And one of the things that we do is we enter into a WhatsApp conversation with our customer, with every customer that travels.
Perfect.
So we're able to send to them in advance, please note your train tonight between Brussels and Cologne is delayed. And also most of our customers travel with an Interrail pass. We provide an Interrail pass as part of their trip. So we are advising customers how to adjust their journey on their Interrail pass so that they can just simply get on a different train.
Yeah, so that makes it easier than booking individual trains too.
Exactly. And it might be that instead of going direct Brussels-Cologne, they're going Brussels. They might be doing a slightly different. But
you recommend it, so they don't really have to do anything.
They don't have to do anything.
They just go on to it. Great. Yeah, and I was really wondering that because that's the issue I have with train travel is that it just feels unreliable. And hearing like all the stories from other people traveling by train, which is of course always the stories you hear.
Of
Because
course.
I know like flights are always delayed as well, but the train kind of feels different for some reason because it's like, again, we're delayed, but then, yeah, I don't know why, but it just feels different.
You know what? It's so interesting because the perception and the reality are two different things, right? So something like 98% of all trains in Europe run on time, right? It's amazingly good. But of course, we think about and we hear about and we talk about the 2%. You've made me think about something I've not been thinking about. It's part of the experience. Like, yes, if you're going on a 12-day trip across Europe by train using different trains almost every day, at some point, you're probably going to have something.
Absolutely.
There's
Yeah.
probably, and I think the thing that us and we are trying to really get across is don't let it ruin your day. Don't let it ruin your holiday. There'll be a way
Yeah.
to organize it. And
Yeah. Yeah.
when,
It's really about managing their expectations. So you prepare them for like, this is going to happen,
do you know,
probably.
what it is? We're not a proxy for flight inclusive holidays. So almost never do we sell 7 nights in, I don't know, Lake Como, let's say. And the only difference is you're going by train instead of a plane. That's not who we are. What we're all about is, and this is what I think we're trying to get across to customers, is if you're going to Lake Como by train, then overnight in Paris and Zurich on the way down. And you'll see how great is Paris, right? How wonderful is walking around
Yeah.
Zurich,
Yeah.
right? But enjoy those journeys. Slow it down. And then if
Yeah.
your train to Paris is delayed, it doesn't matter. You'll just get a later train to Paris, and you'll still have a night there or 2 nights there. And if your train to
Yeah.
Zurich is like Paris to Zurich, there's 3 or 4 different ways to do it. So if your
Yeah.
if your fast TGV is cancelled or delayed, then take the slow train by Strasbourg. Like, it doesn't matter, right? And that's the beauty of traveling with an Interrail pass. It's the beauty of traveling with a tour operator is slow it down and enjoy the journey. And yeah, things will happen. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
But I think that's really important, especially like with the disruptions or the stigma that train travel has sometimes, is to really change the perspective. So it's not just a transportation to a
Right.
destination, it's really part of it. And what you said, like if you build in that extra time to enjoy a city that you're passing, it doesn't matter if you're there an hour later. So that's a really good point. Yeah. Great. We talked about this a bit before, but train and also bus travel is kind of has the stigma for older travelers. Do you see like a shift from younger travelers to also travel with Byway, or is it
Yeah,
very much concentrated on? Yeah, you do. Okay.
we absolutely do.
And then in terms of product development, I'm assuming that you have a basic selection of routes that you usually offer that
Oh,
are presented on the website, or is it always what travelers are asking for?
yeah, so both actually. So we have the way that we've built the technology allows any connection that exists to be made into a trip. So, and because the European rail network is so good and literally everything is connected to everything, maybe 1 or 2 degrees of separation, you can get to wherever you want to get to in Europe. What we've done is we've built using a whole bunch of APIs from various partners, the data that allows the connectivity of all these different routes. So a customer can go onto our website and use, for example, our maps functionality and say, I want to go to Cologne, Basel, and Zurich. And our technology will look at how best to connect
Let's do
those
it.
three places up. And it will make recommendations of how long to stay in each one. And the technology allows completely bespoke online trips to be created. We also have a whole bunch of trips that we've curated that do sell time and time again. And we have something like 400 of those on the website that we've built up over the years
Really?
that customers have
Yeah.
bought or created, and that we've said, okay, we'll turn that into a trip that we sell. But as I mentioned before, almost never do people book the same trip twice. There'll be different dates. Because it's public transport, you can travel every day.
Yeah.
The only exception to that, of course, is like some night trains don't run every night. They like run 3 times a week or twice a week, whatever.
Yeah.
But other than that, pretty much everything runs every day. Some ferries, not every day, but pretty much everything's every day. So, and customers can configure the trip to their requirements. So if a customer says, oh, I'd actually like an extra night in Paris on the same journey, that's fine. You just push
Yeah.
everything back a day.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, we have both set trips that people can go on and bespoke about half of our customers book online without talking to us, and about half come through the team.
That's quite interesting that it's still that they kind of need the personalized,
Yeah,
the personal connection.
mostly email actually, but yeah. And I don't know. Might be partly because the demographic we've attracted.
Right.
It might be partly because this is quite complicated, and like our UX might not always be intuitive enough for some of our customers to understand how to do it. So we often help customers through the process.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but we're working all the time on the technology. Like that's probably been the hardest thing to do actually the whole way through this. Like we proved quite early on that there was a market for this kind of product. We definitely found that there were customers who were like really into the idea of like that kind of romantic notion of traveling across Europe by
Yeah.
train and night trains, like you said, and like going interraiding like they maybe did when they were young. Like there's
Yeah.
definitely an audience for that, and we've found them. What's been harder is producing the technology that allows these trips to be made at scale. Now, 5 years down the line, we're a team of 68 people. Would you believe?
Wow.
We're selling hundreds of trips every month.
That's a great trend. What trend? I would say development to see in that.
Yeah.
I think train travel is gaining a lot more popularity in the last few years. I think maybe also had to do a bit with COVID that people had to stay within Europe, obviously. But I do feel that this security or this knowledge of, okay, look, what connections make sense, where do I book it safely, is really necessary to make it like a comfortable, relaxing trip. So also in your software where they plan their trip online, where they map it out, does this also include the accommodations?
We're a tour operator in the traditional sense, and that means that we have to sell packages. So our packages are travel, which is usually train, but sometimes train and ferry, or sometimes train and ferry and bus, and accommodation. So we very carefully curate the accommodation that we attach to each trip. So when we look at accommodation, we basically look at 3 or 4 things. Firstly, proximity to the train station. What we want is for people to come out of the train station and be walking distance to their hotel. And customers, of course, love that. And that's, like, this is why I get so excited about it, because train stations tend to be in the center of town. So you arrive in the center of town, walk to your hotel, drop your bags off, and go off on holiday. And you're on you start your journey. You start your experience. Like, I love that. We ask that our hotels are really well rated. So we look at all the various review sites, or we know them personally, and that we want customers to have a good quality experience. We don't care so much about star rating. Like, we can have a customer stay in a 3-star hotel on a trip and a 5-star hotel on a trip. It doesn't really matter. What we care about is proximity to the train station and reviews. We love it when we can see that the hotel is doing something around sustainability. So we love it when the hotel tells us that they have a single-use plastic policy, or use local produce, or contributing to the local community in some way. We have an energy policy. Like, we really look for that in our hotel partners.
Then you bundle them in your sustainable stays collection, right?
Yes.
So it's actually highlighted as sustainable.
Exactly that. Also, and this does have a sustainability impact. And we should talk about this, because sustainability is not just about carbon, right? Everyone gets obsessed about
Absolutely.
carbon.
Same.
And of course, traveling by train, it's like 90% fewer emissions than traveling the same route by plane. The carbon's, of course, important, but it's not the only thing. And so, for example, we tend, not always, but we tend not to use chain hotels. We tend to prefer to use locally owned or family owned hotels.
Yeah.
And that is a sustainability thing, because when you...
local impact.
Right. So exactly. So when you stay at a chain hotel, a lot of the revenue will disappear off to wherever the headquarters of the chain happens to be. Won't necessarily stay in the local community, which, as you say, it has an impact. The other thing that you just reminded me of is overtourism. So we've coded into our technology places that we regard as hotspots. And a hotspot would be a place that gets too many tourists. So 2 examples, very obvious examples, would be Amsterdam, and which you know very well, and Venice. So while we will definitely have customers who want to visit both Amsterdam and Venice, and of course, actually quite important transport hubs as well, we code into our technology to not allow more than 1 or 2 nights stay in those places. So customers going in, experience it, and then moving on. So it's much more likely in a Netherlands tour, for example, or a Netherlands trip, that a customer has 1 night in Amsterdam via Eurostar when they first get there, but are more likely to stay longer in Utrecht or Rotterdam or Apeldoorn,
Yeah.
or because those kind of places actually wanting more tourism, needing more tourism. Whereas
Yeah.
Amsterdam, we're quite full actually.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's an actual experience of the Netherlands. But of course,
Exactly.
Amsterdam is the Netherlands, but it's very different from other regions that we have, of course.
We did a lot of work with the Netherlands Tourist Board, NBTC. We've got a really lovely relationship with those guys, and they love us because we bring people into the country sustainably by train,
Yeah.
and we don't have them staying in Amsterdam, right? So
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
like, oh, you're helping us promote all these other areas of Netherlands, which is gorgeous. Doesn't get a fair share of the market because Amsterdam is so dominating.
Yeah.
So over tourism is something that we really focus on. The other thing is time. So, and when we talk about July and August and like being really peak periods for travel, absolutely true. But we try and actively spread tourism across the year. And the thing about traveling across Europe by train is actually it's really lovely to travel in September and October or May and June or even February or March.
Yeah.
Because actually it's not about the weather, it's about what the architecture or the food or the cultural or music or whatever it is you're traveling for.
Yeah.
It's not about necessarily just weather. So spreading tourism across by time as well as by place has a real sustainability
Yeah.
impact.
Yeah, we had in our previous season of the podcast, we had an episode on overtourism, and this is exactly
Right.
the two aspects. So it's place and time. So it's really good that you're tapping into that. And also you mentioned ferries. So you do train, bus, and ferries. How do you select the ferries? Because they're not always the most sustainable
Yeah.
option.
They're
Do you have criteria for that or?
so it's more the route and whether the route makes sense than anything else. So if customers need them, we will use them. There's a couple of particular routes that we use quite a lot. So in Scandinavia, we work with a couple of suppliers who actually offer 2-night, I'm not going to say cruise because it's not cruise, but 2-night crossings because the crossing's quite
Yeah.
long. And actually that's an experience in itself. So
Yeah, absolutely.
again, like you were saying before about the journey being part of the overall experience, like people come back and tell us that 2-night crossing was amazing. The things I saw,
Yeah.
those are the kind of interesting experiences that people just wouldn't have if they flew directly to Stockholm or Copenhagen.
Yeah, absolutely. But then do you take into account sustainability? Like, would there be any area or crossing that you said, okay, we don't want to offer that specifically or?
No, not that I'm aware of yet. We know ferry crossings, some of the ships use heavy fuel. Some of them are less efficient than others. As with all parts of the industry, things are being modernized all the time.
True.
Um,
Yeah.
And things are improving all the time. And more companies are realizing that their audience is demanding that they make changes and that they improve their emission. Ferry is absolutely there. So we are very happy to offer ferry crossings to our customers. And what we do is we make sure that our customers know about emissions on each leg that they're taking. What we do is we tell our customers in their trip the carbon emissions that their trip is contributing. And we can work that out from each leg in our database, having some carbon information.
Yeah. Yeah, because you calculate that you work with eCollective, right? Can you share a little bit more how do you calculate that? And also how do you communicate that? I think that's
So
the
there's,
issue.
so as I said, each leg in our data is tagged by its operator. And most operators deduce per kilometer how much their carbon emissions are. We're able to then work out how long that leg is. I say leg, London to Paris is a leg. We're able to work out how many miles that leg is, and therefore from the transport operators' emissions data, we're able to calculate the carbon emissions of that leg per person. We're also able to use some information from DEFRA, which is the UK's for energy, among other things, and explaining how these emissions are calculated. We're able to do the same for accommodation per country. So, and ferry legs, we're able to get that information from the ferry companies. So we're able to say to customers, this trip is costing this much carbon. You're emitting this much carbon by doing this trip. We're also able to calculate what it would have cost if they'd either driven or if they'd have flown. So we take the furthest place that they're going to, and we work out what it would cost in terms of emissions to fly to that place or drive to that place. And then we're able to say to customers, if you had flown or if you'd have driven, this is how much carbon you use, and therefore this is how much carbon you've saved by traveling on train or on ferry or on bus.
Yeah, exactly. And then do you feel that travelers are interested in or engaged with this sustainability data? Do you get feedback?
As I said at the start, we definitely have this with some customers. I wonder if it's becoming more of a hygiene factor, like it's just expected. I think customers know that traveling by train, pound for pound, is going to be fewer emissions than flying. I think customers, by and large, that. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if they are as interested in by how much. I think more often they'll be like, how do I make my connection in Paris? Like they're more concerned about those kind of factors. But of course, it's part of the conversation. And I don't think Byway would be Byway if there wasn't that sustainability angle. I just think that our conversation with customers, that's a bit of a hygiene factor. And actually what they really want to know is, how many yards to my hotel is it from the train station?
Yeah, the practical side. But that's, I think, what we've been discovering as well, also through this podcast, but also through our work in general, is that there are so many travelers that care about sustainability, but they will not really see it as a priority of their travel decisions. But at the same time, they kind of expect it and they see it as added value. But first of all, the experience has to be great and has to fit their needs. That's always a priority.
Honestly, I think that's the right analysis of the situation.
And then in your social media and your marketing, how do you balance this? Like, how do you balance your sustainability messaging? Because you do communicate a lot about that.
Yeah.
But how do you balance it out?
We do. If you take our Instagram, for example, like we're really active on Instagram and it's love. I think we've got something like 40,000 followers on Instagram. And there's a real mixture of how gorgeous this trip is. Look at the views from this train and something around our impact report. We produce an impact report every April. And what we do is all of those numbers that we were just talking about, like the amount of carbon that our customers have saved and all that kind of stuff, how many times we've put a customer in a hotel that's locally owned rather than a chain, like how many times we've avoided a hotspot, like all of that is calculated and added up. And at the end of the year in April, we produce our impact report. And a lot of our social media is around the delivery of that impact report and some of the things that we've seen that were teased out in the impact report become social media stories on their own. So
they're very tangible examples.
Right, exactly.
That.
Like, I can't remember the exact number. 80% of our hotel stays last year were not in chain hotels. 83% of our hotel stays last year were not in hotspots. So we were able to, exactly as you say, have these kind of tangible examples of what sustainability means in terms of selling holidays of this type.
Yeah, exactly. And then do you notice like a difference between engagement when you mention sustainability explicitly versus general user stories?
I don't think so, actually. I don't think we've noticed any particular trends in. I think different stories, different posts do well in different ways. So sometimes particularly lovely post about a destination will do particularly well. And at other times a post that's focused around some sustainability aspect will do particularly well. There's so many factors that go into this. And I don't know that we've noticed any particular like social media trends about one or the other yet.
Okay. Yeah. Then what I also noticed on your website is that you have an LGBTQ equality index. So can you explain what the LGBTQ equality index is that you have on your website and why it's so important for Byway?
Yeah, so something we've done quite recently, actually. So we've partnered with an organization called Equaldex, who've taken, using some really good data, provided an understanding of destination and how, what's the right word, friendly they are to different groups. We have a value within Byway that we have a bunch of values, but one of the values that's really central to who we are is that Byway should be for everyone, irrespective of gender or sexuality or religion or age or disability or anything. Byway should be for everyone. This kind of travel should be for everyone, and everyone should feel safe. Everyone should feel safe wherever they go. And the best way to feel safe is to know in advance what to expect. So that's how we're working with Equadex, is understanding which places are best for and most friendly to a diverse range of customers.
Yeah.
And we're working really hard on that. We're working really hard accessibility. So we have a lot of customers who come to us and say, I have some difficulties. I can't walk long distances, or I'm in a wheelchair, or I'm blind, or I have trouble hearing. Is this kind of travel suitable for me? And we're working really hard on making sure that we are making Byway available for everyone.
I think that's really good and also very important, because I do think that if you have such a disability, that it might be challenging to travel by train or even feel that
Right.
that's not possible. So I think that's really good that you're focusing on that. And also regarding the X, because I was looking at it, and for example, Morocco scores quite low,
Yeah.
as in, well, very low actually. But then is it kind of a disencouragement for LGBTQ travelers to go there? Is it kind of a recommendation, or is it more like, okay, this is the information,
That
do with it what you want? Okay.
it's providing information. So honestly, that's the best way what you've said is the best way to think about it. It's like awareness. It's like being aware of local customs, local societal norms, where you might feel safe, where you might feel less safe, and make decisions
Yeah.
based on having information. I think that's the key thing that we want to cross with this is know
Yeah.
what you're doing and be aware.
It's really raising awareness and just managing expectations, and then having them decide what they want to do with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Morocco is so amazing. And I love the fact that we sell holidays as far as Morocco without flying.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
People travel all the way through France and all the way through Spain, staying at a few lovely places on the way, get the ferry over to Tangier, travel around Morocco, which has got an amazingly good rail infrastructure, and then come
Really?
back. It's an amazing trip. It's an
Yeah.
amazing trip. But of course, if you're a customer from one of these groups, then may be aware that societal norms in Morocco are different to societal norms in Paris or in London or in.
It's all about raising awareness and also kind of maybe influencing their travel behavior.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of preparing them for the guidelines. Yeah.
Yep.
And then also speaking about influencing, I guess it's kind of the other way around, but does Byway have any influence on the expansion or improvement of European train networks? Like, do you have like any input, or are you asked for insights or?
Yes. I know. It's a good question. So sometimes I get to speak at events. Sometimes Kat, our founder, gets to speak events. And those events sometimes have an impact. And we'd like to do more of that. We certainly feel that we have a voice, and we certainly want to use that voice. It's interesting. I often use the phrase, we should be pushing at an open door, like with sustainability and trains and traveling this way. It should be an open door, and it's not. There's lots of vested interest in travel, and the lines are powerful. Aviation is a really powerful, important industry for many countries. It's quite hard to change that, and I don't know that we want to. But I think what we want to do is make sure that customers and the audience and the wider audience know, you know what it is, right? Yeah. The words travel and flights are synonymous, and they don't need to be. And that's the role that we want to play, is that, as you said right at the start, like our thing is to make flight-free travel a mainstream option. That's where we see our value. So lots of the work that I do with partnerships is working with mainstream organizations. Speaking at events, it's mainstream events. Like I spoke recently at the APTA Sustainability Convention. So that's a very mainstream audience. EasyJet and Jet2 are in there, right? So we want to be raising the voice of sustainable travel within mainstream audiences. Yes, there might well be in our future working with tourist boards and by extension governments to try and get this message.
Yeah. No, I think you have all the knowledge basically, and the tools apparently to make this change or to provide this insight. But what do you think is your biggest challenge in trying to achieve this?
Two things. So one is, I mentioned before, the technology, the fragmentary nature of European rail. It technically is hard. I do say this quite regularly. I don't know if I should say it, but I've been working for Byway for 5 years, and I can see why nobody created a Byway before. and it's really hard, right? The technology side of it is really hard. And even 5 years down the line, we haven't cracked it. We've done really well, and we've got loads of stuff done. We've got loads of stuff to do. Like we were talking about booking horizons, like that sort
Yeah.
of stuff is really hard to overcome from a tour operator perspective. So the first thing is technology is hard, but we've done really well. The other thing is cost, price. So pound for pound, traveling by train is not cheaper than traveling on an aeroplane. It's not. I recently traveled to Vienna by train for a conference, and I looked at the flights, and the flight time from London to Vienna is like 1 hour and 45 minutes or something. It's really short. And the flight with Ryanair was £50 return or something. I went on the train to stay overnight in a couple of places on the way there, took a couple of days to get there, a couple of days back, and cost 10 times the amount, right?
Yeah.
But of course, I experienced so much on the way there and different things on the way back, and saw much more, and had time to decompress from the conference and work on the train. And like, I got so much more from it than just flying there, flying out.
Yeah.
So cost is an issue. And I don't know how we overcome that, because by definition, it's expensive. I'm not sure. Like, I think trains might be too expensive. Like, as a thing, I think trains are probably too expensive.
Yeah.
But I definitely think flights are too cheap. And I don't think it's all right for EasyJet and Ryanair and whoever else to be regularly selling flights at £30. Like, I don't think that's helpful. And I think that's where we need, and this is what I mean about pushing an open door. So if we care about emissions, and we know that aviation contributes to emissions, should we be encouraging more and more flying by doing that kind of marketing?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that long term, that's where we want this industry to be. If we want to be a responsible industry that's actually taking care.
Actually, in the Netherlands, they are working on these advertising codes that it's no longer allowed to share a certain unsustainable thing. For example, flying is not allowed to market these aspects. And I think that's a really good first step in the right direction. And I think,
Netherlands does well with this stuff.
well, it's an example for the UK to follow. But I also wanted to build on what you said about your trip to Vienna, is that I can understand why business travel is still the majority of flights. Because if you have an important meeting, and then it's debatable if you can do that online, if you want to go there in person. But if you talk business, it's really not feasible to take 4 days to go for one event if you can go on the same day. So if you really talk about the money impact, I do understand why, and I think there's a lot that needs to be changed there. But that is one of the biggest issues. I think time's money, and I think that's the biggest barrier.
I think that's true. I think there's a lot of businesses now who are becoming mindful of their impact as well, and I really like this. And I actually see this more from the kind of private sector than I do from kind of government top-down stuff. You do see more organizations taking more responsible steps in terms of business travel. So either cutting business travel, saying that you can have a very good conversation like we have completely online, or realizing that actually you can work on the train. On that trip to Vienna, where I had good Wi-Fi, which honestly wasn't everywhere, but that's improving every day as well. I did quite a lot of work on the way there and on the way back. But listen, it's a difficult one, and it's going to take some time for that to really cut through. You're absolutely right. It's going to take time, but this is a movement, right? We're not flight shaming. We're basically saying, and actually, it's the most frequent flyers who have the biggest impact, which is a tiny proportion of people. It's not the people who are traveling once a year for a holiday that matter. It's those that are flying frequently. And I'm sure you know this. If you take one fewer return flight to Europe a year, take more carbon than if you were a vegan for a year. One flight, one return.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, let's leave it at that. But yeah, that's ridiculous. I think what we said, it's a movement, and I think we're going the right direction, but there is still a lot of impact to be made. It's been great to hear what you've been doing at Byway. It's very inspiring to find out what challenges you have, but also especially how do you make train travel appealing and safe and reliable for travelers that want to experience travel a bit slower. So very interesting. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Anne. Take care.
I hope you liked that conversation as much as I did. There's a lot we can learn from companies like Byway, and it's so interesting to see how they successfully navigate the challenges of train travel and making sustainability part of the story by default. If you're enjoying the podcast, like and share this episode, and subscribe to our channel to not miss any of the upcoming episodes. Thank you for listening, and we hope to see you next time.